Since watching the return of the UFC in Jacksonville, Florida 2 months ago, we have witnessed some crazy fights and also seen 2 more TKO by leg kicks, bringing the total in UFC history to just 11. There's also been great use of leg kicks and in particular low calf kicks used to control and dominate the pace of fights. Joe Rogan highlighted the rise of leg kicks in MMA in his recent podcast with Henry Cejudo.
But it's really only been the last 2 years or so. I give credit to Benson Henderson, because Benson Henderson was the first guy to really bring it to MMA. Yeah. But for whatever reason, it wasn't as devastating when he was doing it. I don't know if he was doing it differently, but there was no moment in a fight where he kicked someone's calf and you saw immediately them buckling. But you're seeing that now with these guys, like immediately 1-2 kicks and their leg is semi-useless.
What's up guys, Snacks here from Knockout MMA, and today we're taking a look at 10 of the most brutal leg kick performances in MMA history. Some of these are knockouts and some are damaged by accumulation, but all result in a win for the fighter dishing out some of the nastiest leg kicks you'll ever see. And remember guys, if you enjoy these lists, hit that like and subscribe button down below. It really helps out the channel and allows me to keep producing more great MMA content for you guys.
Number 10. Chris Gutierrez vs Vince Morales.
The first entry on this list comes from one of the most recent performances I talked about before. Coming in the first fight of the night during UFC Fight Night Woodley vs Burns, we saw Gutierrez decide not to leave it up to the judges after coming off a very close split decision win in his last fight, by dispatching of Morales, who was making his return to featherweight just 33 seconds into round number 2. Gutierrez completely neutralized him with largely a single weapon, the calf kick. From the opening bell, he was chopping at Morales' ankles, leaving his opponent limping slightly within the first minute. From that point forward, Morales was hardly a threat. Gutierrez was able to play around, feinting and kicking whatever target appeared available. He continued to return to the low kicks, breaking down the calf of both legs when his opponent switched stances. In the end, it was a dominant performance from Chris, and that's why he landed on this list. Number 9. Alexander Volkanowski vs Max Holloway 1. During Alex's performance acclaimed in the featherweight strap last December against Max, Alex used a myriad of leg kicks to decimate Max's usual movement and control the pace of the 5-round championship bout. While these kicks did not result in a stoppage, they were a huge factor, as highlighted by Joe Rogan moments after the bell, before the scorecards were even read out.
You have to count leg kicks. They mean a lot. And here you see Volkanowski over and over again chopping at the legs of Max Holloway. Boom, again. I mean, this was a huge factor in this fight, inside leg kick.
Claiming a UFC championship in a division that's only had 3 champions since its inauguration in 2010 is a huge feat, and with the leg kicks being the main weapon of choice throughout the fight, it goes down as one of the most brutal leg kick performances you'll see in MMA history. Number 8. Jose Aldo vs Uriah Faber. When talking about great featherweight champions, Jose Aldo springs to mind. In his performance against UFC Hall of Famer Uriah Faber at WEC 48, during their championship bout, we learnt 3 things as a viewer. At age 23, Aldo was one of the greatest fighters on earth. Number 2, Uriah Faber can take one hell of a beating, and this was proved time and time again. And finally, Aldo packed devastating heat with his kicks that rendered Uriah's normal speed practically non-existent. He used leg kicks from the beginning to the end of the fight, which helped set up a range of different strikes and looks for him. Uriah went on to put up a video a few days after the fight showing the amount of bruising that he had caused by these devastating kicks. Safe to say that Aldo had brutalized Uriah's legs, which is why this performance landed him on the list. Number 7. Edson Barboza vs Mike Lulu. Yes, I'm assuming most of you have thought Barboza would find his way onto this list, and you're not wrong. A perennial top 10 lightweight who has recently made the switch to featherweight, made a name for himself in the UFC with his crazy speed and kick prowess. In fact, Barboza owns knockouts with both body and head kicks to go along with his leg kick by TKOs. Coming in just his first UFC appearance, Barboza came up against Mike Lulu and showed his devastating leg kicks throughout the first 2 rounds, dropping Lulu towards the end of the second before finishing him in just 26 seconds into the third round, announcing his arrival to the UFC. Most were stunned by his brutalization of Lulo's legs and the speed and power that he displayed. That's why he landed himself on this list. Number 6. Justin Gaethje vs Brian Foster. The current interim UFC lightweight champ has had many highlight reel finishes in his career and well and truly lives up to his nickname. None more so than when he dispatched a Foster inside the first 2 minutes during his reign as champion in the World Series of Fighting. Going into the bout, most people believed the fight was going to be a barn burner, and it lived up to all expectations, with a number of brutal exchanges ending in Justin dropping Foster with leg kicks, rendering him unable to stand. Foster took to Facebook days later to congratulate the champ and say that his kicks had done some legit damage to his knee, but it's all part of the game. Safe to say Gaethje has some of the most brutal leg kicks in the game. Number 5. Mirko vs Hideko Yoshida. It wouldn't be a complete list without highlighting one of the pioneers of the sport and a man known for some of the craziest highlights you'll see from the early 2000s. Krokop's MMA career has spanned nearly 2 decades, with his pro kickboxing career starting in 1996. He brought his lightning-fast leg kicks to the MMA in 2001. To 2006, in the Pride Openweight Grand Prix, we saw Krokop take on former Olympic gold medalist Yoshida. Krokop began to find success with leg kicks as the fight progressed, dropping Yoshida multiple times before the ref stepped in after Krokop almost pleaded with him to stop the fight. After Yoshida was dropped for a final time, wincing in pain, holding his brutalized leg. Many fighters we see today credit Krokop as someone they looked up to, including someone we might see later on in this list. Number 4. Raphael dos Anjos vs Nate Diaz. The third Brazilian to make the list and former UFC lightweight champ and welterweight contender makes his appearance for his performance against fellow lightweight and welterweight top 10 mainstay Nate Diaz on his run towards his lightweight title back in 2014. After winning 7 of his last 8, with his only loss coming against now champ Khabib, RDA employed a kick-heavy approach, rendering Diaz's normal movement useless. Just like we learnt before, Uriah could take one hell of a beating against Aldo. The same could be said for Diaz, although most already knew that the Diaz brothers were some of the toughest fighters in mixed martial arts. RDA proceeded to take the victory by unanimous decision thanks to some absolute brutal leg kicks, and went on to take the lightweight championship in his next fight against Anthony Showtime Pettis. Number 3. Pat Barry vs Dan Everson. Coming in at number 3 on the list is the man many people may know as Rose Namajunas' partner, but long before Thug Rose and Pat Barry, one of the MMA world's power couples, Barry was lighting up both the kickboxing and MMA worlds with his raw, explosive ability and goofy but fun personality. In just his 4th pro MMA bout, he was making his UFC debut, and that is the performance that landed him on this list. He was in fact coming into the bout on a 3-fight winning streak to start his career, 2 of which were stopped due to leg kicks that were so brutal that they stopped the fight in the first round. Barry would make that 3 out of 4 against Dan Everson in his UFC debut, stopping him just 2 minutes and 36 seconds into the first round. And yes, Barry is the fighter which looked up to Krokop, and would later go on to fight his hero in a fight which he would lose before going on to fight a few more times before retiring and becoming the full-time hype man and coach for Thug Rose on her rise to MMA superstar and champion. Alex Perez vs Gutierrez. Coming into this fight, many thought it might be a bounce-back fight for Formiga, but most quickly realised that it was just another notch on the belt for a streaking Perez, who could land himself a title shot at the current vacant title in the near future, with his only loss coming since 2016 against flyweight mainstay Joseph Benavidez. Perez let the world know his plan straight out of the gate, landing punishing leg kicks to the outside for Formiga's lead leg and busting up the right side of his face. Formiga tried to bite down on his mouthpiece and stalk Perez around the cage with offense, but Perez displayed too much speed and strength. Eventually, Perez's leg attacks took their toll and put Formiga down for good within the first round. Perez, now 6-1 inside the octagon, looks to be on the rise in a division starving for new stars. One more win could land the 28-year-old a title shot by year's end, and his TKO by leg kick landed him on this list of most brutal leg kick performances we've seen in MMA to date. Number 1. Edson Barboza vs Raphael Oliveira. If there was one fighter who deserves a spot on this list twice, I'm sure many would agree it's Barboza, a man who possesses what many agree is the most powerful and dangerous leg kick in the UFC and MMA world. In just his 7th fight inside the octagon, Barboza would waste little time once again displaying his strategy of blasting Oliveira's legs. These kicks would quickly add up, and with just his 4th kick he staggered Oliveira. This punishment continued, with Barboza dropping his devastated opponent multiple times in the 2nd round before a merciful Herb Dean stepped in just 1 minute 44 seconds into the round. With a total of 22 leg kicks stopping Oliveira inside 2 rounds, Barboza once again put on a beautiful display of brutal leg kicks. Safe to say that any fighter who faces Barboza will normally have a sore leg or two the next day. This rounds out the list of most brutal leg kick performances. Thanks for watching, and remember to chuck any suggestions down in the comments below for videos. And also remember to smash that like button once again. And hopefully everyone enjoys the fights this weekend for the